What's up, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, as always, Harmon Jr. Please feel free to follow me at Harmon Jr. on all your favorite social media. So, as always, we're in season 4, rocking and rolling and rocking. And I have a very special guest today. Way back in yonder year, I interned at Game Informer magazine. And while I was there, we had a cool senior editor by the name of Matt Helgeson. And he is back today. Even though he has
Yep.
left the gaming sphere, he is back to talk gaming. And I am very grateful. How are you doing today, Matt?
I'm good, Odell, man. It's great to see you, man. I'm glad, I'm glad we could reconnect. And, it was always fun back in the day when you were at GI being an intern for that term. And, I follow you on Twitter, so I kind of keep track of, you've been going to a lot of, well, when there was industry events to go to, you were going to a lot of industry events, not probably in 2020 so much, but, I'm glad. I mean, I know you've been grinding and you've been trying to just continue to, elevate in games media. So I was happy. I've always been happy to see that. And so when you contacted me, I was happy to be on the show.
Oh,
So even though, yeah, man, I'm not like, I guess I've gotten a little back into it. So I left Game Informer about, geez, it might be like 5 years ago, almost 4 or 5 years ago. And, yeah, since then I've basically been working in kind of content writing, SEO, website development and stuff. And right now I work for a advertising marketing digital agency called Carmichael Lynch in Minneapolis. And yeah, we work with a bunch of clients like, Subaru is our big client, but, Hellsberg Diamonds, I don't know, a bunch of stuff. I think what's the other big one? Oh, the Minnesota Twins here in Minneapolis. So yeah, it's been a pretty fun. And then recently, I guess I'm a little bit maybe the toe back in it because probably for about the last since earlier this year, Ben Hansen, also formerly Game Informer, and a bunch of Game Informer X people, they started sort of a just a I guess a media content channel called MinnMax. You can support them on Patreon, patreon.com/MinnMax, MinnMax. And yeah, it's cool. They do a bunch of stuff. And Ben contacted me about wanting me to do a music podcast just for some sort of different content. And so it's called Crossfade, the Dueling Album Review Show. I do that with Jason Daphnis, another ex Game Informer uh, intern who actually moved up to Minneapolis. And I worked with him at another agency, a marketing agency as well, for a few years. And it's been fun. We basically we have a guest, and they pick an album that means a lot to them. I pick an album that means a lot to me, and then we, you know, both take some time to listen to them and take notes, and then we get back and kind of talk about both of the albums. So it's been a lot of fun so far, and we hope you listen. It's called Crossfade, one word, two caps, and you can find it, Apple, Spotify, etc. Anywhere you can find podcasts, basically. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing a few little, I've done some video game stuff a little bit here and there with MinnMax guys, and I came on when the Tony Hawk redo came out, which was fun, and we also did a Crossfade podcast with one of the guys that helped create the Tony Hawk soundtracks, which were so like
oh.
iconic back in the day. So, and he's also produced a movie, documentary movie about the creation of the Tony Hawk franchise, and it's yeah, that was a fun episode. So maybe that if you're looking for more video game type music content, I think that would be a good place to start on Crossfade.
Well, all right, sir. In case you didn't know who Matt Helgeson was, you sure know who he is now.
Yep,
Jack of all
yep,
trades. You've been around. I'm always
yeah,
impressed that people who have been around in the video game industry and just in many industries, all like when it was still early, when before I say the glitz and the glamour, so to speak. Now every little kid is always like, I want to work in video games,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
always, it's fun to ask me, like a parent asked me, like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, that's kind of a bold question. It's like working in movies. Do you want to be a director? Do you want to be an actor? Do you want to write stories? There's so much that you can do. And then they say they want to make money playing video games. I'm like, that's also that's such a large thing to say. Well, I feel like
yeah.
back in the day, if you told someone that, they'd be like, okay, weirdo.
Well, that's what people ask me. Like, did you always want to like? When I was working at Game for 16 years, and people would ask like, "Oh, did you always want to be a video game journalist?" And I was like, my honest answer was like, no, because I mean, I was from a small farm town in southern Minnesota. Like, it never occurred to me that that was something that you could do for a living, right? It was like, to me, that was what, there was like Game Pro and Nintendo Power and stuff, but I figured those people were in like Los Angeles or Tokyo, or you know what I mean? It just didn't.
Yeah.
And with the internet kind of, and streaming and Twitch and Discord and everything, it kind of opened things up, you know what I mean, to a. But back then it seemed, it never would have occurred to me that you could get paid to write stuff about video games. I wanted to be a writer, and then I kind of was happy to meet Andy McNamara and those guys. But yeah, it's interesting. Things have really changed, and there's a lot of different avenues for people to try to, you know, live out, their dreams with games, and that's a cool thing. And everyone's making a lot of content these days.
Oh yeah, the world is definitely changing, and we're going to be talking about this week because most of our topics is evolving the greater world and video games. So we're going to be talking about, in case you didn't hear, you've been under a rock. Bethesda was acquired by Microsoft a little bit ago. Kind of a
Yeah,
big
that's.
deal.
I mean, that's got to be the biggest acquisition of a studio for, man, I don't even know. I mean, it was a big deal when they got Rare, but I feel like Rare at that point was already sort of on the decline a little bit. You know what I mean? In terms of
Yeah,
being a
they, they
studio,
they
they
weren't
weren't.
they weren't making the hits like they used to.
No, no. Whereas like Bethesda, still. I mean, yeah, it's a huge move on. Kudos to Microsoft, because really, truly, they. I mean, I always feel like the difference between Sony and Microsoft is that Sony, I think, has always really valued internal development talent, and the studios that they, like Naughty Dog or the Japan studios. I mean, they really have always. Media Molecule, all kinds of Sony studios are really doing creative stuff. So I was happy to see that Microsoft, stepped up in a big way. And Bethesda obviously comes with, mega Morrowind and mega franchises like that, and Elder Scrolls. But it'll that was a big move for them. It was
Oh,
cool.
oh yeah, most definitely. Because if I'm speaking honest, just from a good heart, you know, they needed that because for the longest time, everyone has said that Microsoft is just like a tech company trying to play game developer. And I mean, based off how everything was going, it seemed like that. It was just like,
Yeah,
okay, here's another Xbox. It's gonna have the third parties, and Sony's gonna have all the first parts. Nintendo's gonna march to their own beat and just be Nintendo. So whatever. But they're like, no, we're here. We are here. We are firmly here now. So I was like,
yeah,
yes, okay, all right, because we all know great competition makes greater games. So
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think you're right. I mean, we used to try to talk about the console wars, which I don't know if that's kind of an outdated term now, but it's sort of a three company race. But I think you're right. I mean, I don't think Sony and Microsoft feel like they're really competing with Nintendo, and I don't feel like Nintendo probably thinks that they're competing with Sony and Microsoft. I mean, in broad terms, yes, it's dollars that could go to one game system or another, but Nintendo is, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, if they don't, aren't super hardcore where they're going to own all the systems, I feel like a lot of people have like a PlayStation or an Xbox and then also a Switch. You know what I mean? I think it's less common to have, Xbox and a micro and a PlayStation, but
oh yeah, most definitely. But so speaking of the acquisition, they are bringing us Indiana Jones games. But before we get fully into that, we're going to be talking about Pokemon and its year of music. That's why I got the Music Man here, of course, to bring his thoughts. And they're starting with Katy Perry, but I'm not. I digress because I got a lot to say about that. But before we get into all of that, so there was some controversy in America for our US listeners, and probably I'm pretty sure the world knows about this. There was
yeah,
a literal siege on the Capitol, which is a crazy sentence to say. A domestic siege on the Capitol, which is even a
yeah,
crazier sentence to say. And
yeah, yeah,
not because we're in the US of A, but just in the modern world, that's just something that doesn't happen, or at least doesn't happen too often. And it definitely doesn't happen in a major nation.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
It
that
was,
happened, you
yeah.
know, regardless of how you feel about it, it happened. It's gonna be historic. It's gonna be one of those things, if I have grandchildren, they're gonna be like learning about it. I'm like, yeah, I was there. They're gonna be like, no,
Hmm.
you wasn't. I'm like, yeah, I was there. And I was there for
Yeah.
9/11. And they're gonna be like, oh, you're old. I'm like, yeah, I was born in the 90s. And they're like, why? Their head will explode or
Oh
something.
man. Well, if you're old, born in the '90s, then I'm really old. But
Yeah, and so a lot of interesting things happened was protesters, rioters, insurgents that were caught on camera. Like there were people who got fired from places like Toyota. I'm from Houston. There was a Houston police officer there actually who was identified, and he was let go from HPD and things like that. And usually when stuff like this happens, the game sphere in general tends to be more liberal than not. That's not a golden rule, but
Yeah.
like people in the game space are left leaning, so to speak. But but usually when stuff happens, the game world doesn't usually interact with big events. But that's been changing definitely in 2020, and that trend is continuing because Twitch has a mode called, everyone knows PogChamp or Poggers. It's the guy making this face.
Hmm.
You usually put it when something cool or someone does something amazing. Well, that's actually based off a real guy. His name is Ryan Gutierrez Gutix, a Street Fighter guy. And on the day of the siege, he was tweeting pro-Trump rhetoric and basically fanning the fire, if you will.
Yeah.
So Twitch was proactive and was like, "We do not stand for this. Your emote is being removed."
Yeah. And so the thing is like the emote is like that's truly him, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's his face.
Yeah. It's not just like, yeah. I- So yeah, it's a weird thing, man. I didn't really know a lot about this guy. I mean, I certainly saw the story getting passed around, and I don't know. It's man, it's weird. I mean, I definitely, they're just gonna have so many issues moving forward with all kinds of stuff and how we regulate this kind of stuff. And obviously, I mean, I think that they probably made the right decision just because the things we were seeing on TV is just put it this way. I would say I don't know if somebody just expressing opinions, deserves to be kind of deplatformed that way. However, I think that what we saw on the 6th, I believe, that crossed over to a different level of seriousness, right? This is more than just people having political disagreements, right? This is true violence and a sort of a coup attempt, I guess. So I guess all the companies seem to be really erring on the side of trying to crack down. And frankly, probably the criticism there is that a lot of these companies, whether that's Twitter or whoever or Twitch, like they were okay with people having a platform that drove traffic to their platforms, right?
Mhm.
When it was convenient, and now it's maybe not so you know, business wise, it's not so convenient, right? And frankly, they're freaked out because I think they want to, some people want to repeal. I think it's Section 230, which sort of it's a law that basically gives indemnity to a tech company for the speech that's given on their platforms, right? And so if they eliminate that, which I think would really cripple the internet, you would be liable for stuff if somebody said something during a live stream. And how do you really police that? It's like incredible, and so I think they're really the level that you saw all these accounts on multiple platforms canceled and all that stuff. I think they're I think they're pretty scared right now.
Oh yeah, most definitely. What I find interesting specifically to gaming is for a long time, toxicity in gaming is nothing new. It's
No,
existed ever since online play was a thing, like
yeah,
predating even like things of Halo 2. It's always existed in some form or fashion. And not saying this is obviously not right, but the gaming community as a whole, everything that comes in gaming, we kind of just accept it. This happens. We can't control it. People are going to say some things, whether they're sexist, racist, uh,
yeah. I mean,
anti-Semitic in some cases.
yeah,
It just basically everything. A lot of and basically in the gaming world is you apologize, you move on.
yeah,
PewDiePie still's the biggest streamer. And I'm not excusing saying we're better, but that was just the thing because gaming's it was like there's people and then there's gaming. Those are separate, like people's opinions, what they say, what they do.
right.
And gaming has reached a level, with like people like Ninja, he has a clothing line at Walmart, for crying out loud, which is
Yeah,
crazy to think about sometimes.
it
That
is. It's
gaming has
crazy. Yeah.
entered such a big space and such a part of culture. It's not a cultural thing, it is part of culture. Things that happen in gaming can drive real world things, like a clothing
Hmm.
line and money and stuff, that where I feel like this is just one example, but gaming can no longer take a back seat to what people in gaming does.
Hmm. No, I know.
2020 showed us that, and 2021 is probably going to keep showing us that. And just it's been little things that I've noticed throughout the years to where this happens, and I think creators within the space are going to have to finally realize that gaming is so big. You got to look at it like a job. Because let's say Twitch didn't do this. Let's just say the same exact story, but just like, oh, this guy was fired from Microsoft or IBM or what have you. No one would bat an eye. It would just kind of be like, well, yeah, that's a big company,
Yeah.
real world consequences. But now that it's happening in gaming, people don't know how to feel. And I'm just kind of like, I don't think people realize gaming's at that level now. We no longer have this anonymity of just, I'm a gamer, I'm in gaming, it doesn't matter, I can do what
Yeah.
I want.
Well, and Odell too. I guess something that I've thought about a lot, since I've been more out of the industry, and just I was in the industry for a long time, and we sort of, as you said, accepted certain things as normal, or just sort of that was just part of that negative stuff was part of the experience that you had to sort of accept. But and I'd be curious, because you obviously personally compared to myself, say, like you probably experienced a lot of negative stuff over the years, based on your race and things like that. And I mean, if we're getting to the point where we don't just accept that as part of like the natural way of things, that something you just have to like deal with, I think to me that's kind of a good thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we shouldn't have had to experience that kind of stuff, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be that way, right? And I think that if some of these platform holders have to take more accountability for what goes on, I think that's a good thing, because I'm sure you probably had to experience things that or things that were said to you that were horrible, right? I mean, and that
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's sad, but you just have to accept it's like, oh, okay, you said this, you called me that, and it's like, well, mute, ignore, keep going, because
yeah,
ultimately, like back there was real no way to punch. I mean, it was kind of like I always tell people, it's like you bring a complaint to HR and everyone agrees this is bad, but then nothing proceeds to change.
right.
So it's like, and of course they get to the point you're like, well, I'm not gonna go back to HR because clearly it's not gonna change. I can only just kind of voice my opinion, and it's sad, but your only option is either deal with it or get out. You know.
Yeah. And that's not great. I mean, there was, I don't know. I think a lot of things were just easy to overlook, and games kind of came out of this sort of things sort of evolved organically and sort of DIY for many years. So it was real kind of a wild west. But now, as you said, like these are, some of these game franchises, you're talking about like Marvel movie levels of money they're bringing in, right? So it is mass culture. It is, something like at the peak of, Fortnite. I don't know where it's at right now, but I mean, Fortnite was just like everywhere, right? For a
Yeah.
while, like when it was I mean, just in culture,
Yeah.
and,
Like
and
you never played the game for a minute, but you knew what it was.
exactly, yeah, like everyone knew, like my mom probably knew because of like her grandkids and stuff. You know what I mean? Like playing it. So it just I think games, if they have to grow up a little bit, and maybe that means, more stringent moderation of channels and what's said, like maybe that's something that needs to happen, because, these companies don't want to, like a company like Twitch, they see like, yeah, people are going to be mad that we took Champ out, but they also say like, are they going to be so mad that they leave Twitch? No. I
Exactly.
mean, truly, that's what they say as a business. And then they say, well, hey, we're also opening, by leaving it, we're opening ourselves up to possible controversies and other things. So they just make that business decision. Like they think like, we're not going to lose a substantial amount of streamers over this. So we'll just, err on the side of caution.
Yeah, and this is just my personal opinion. Like, it's not. I wouldn't say shrouded in like business logic or anything like that. But I've always felt like this. It's that, and we're finally seeing it. It's just that people in the gaming sphere specifically need finally have to understand that your actions have consequences. Because, like I said, gaming has always been like you're wearing a mask. Like when
Hmm.
I'm in the gaming world, I'm Pog Champers, not Ryan Gutierrez, and as Pog
Right.
Champers, I'm free to do anything without consequence. And
Right.
we've seen this, not I'm not picking on him. We've seen this throughout the years.
Yeah.
As long as gaming existed. And now it's gotten to the point, like I said, we've grown up to the point where like that's not true. Your online handle and real world IRL are one and the same. And what one
Mhm.
does is going to affect the other, just like any other job,
Yes. Yeah.
any other job,
Yes.
any other industry. And I think, it's good because honestly, like, because, if people want to dump on us, you really got to think about the internet as a whole. I remember there was a time where I could probably post anything on my MySpace and Facebook. And now, as a conscious adult, I know that I can easily be fired if I go on my Facebook or whatever social media and be like, my company sucks. They work me
Mhm.
hard. They're
Yep.
all bollocks.
Yeah.
So,
No.
maybe a more PG-13 version of that. I'm pretty sure within a week I'm gonna hear from somebody.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, you got to be careful, man. And I think that's true for, like you said, the kind of older school, like Facebook type of social media or Twitch or whatever people are doing. It's something you got to be conscious of.
Yeah, but that's just the world we live in, and I think gamers we're just got to get used to that. And then speaking of gaming and culture, something on a positive note. So those who know me know I love Pokemon dearly, like with all my heart.
Yeah, I
And
know you
this
do.
year, specifically next month, is going to be the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, and yay, I'm excited. I'm excited whatever the Pokemon company is going to do. Per them, when it gears up next month, it's going to be a year-long celebration of Pokemon. One of their biggest things they're going to do is have a year-long musical celebration that's going to commence of artists, both up and coming and seasoned veterans. And who's going to kick this off? Katy Perry, wearing a Pokeball-inspired dress, apparently. I,
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice dress. It looks cool.
I mean, yeah,
She's got the like, little Pikachu tail kind of drawn on her or whatever.
yeah.
I'm looking at right now, but yeah, I don't. I mean, are they? So, is there a game coming out in with the 25th anniversary as well,
Okay,
or have they not?
so we don't know. We have officially that new Pokemon Snap, which apparently that's the name of the game, not Pokemon Snap 2, not Pokemon Snap Adventure. New Pokemon Snap, because whoever is in charge of naming things in Nintendo thinks the word new is a great
Yeah.
additive, but whatever. So, but in terms of like core games, we don't know. I assume so, yes. Everyone is going to
Yeah.
assume, we're going to get like a preview for Gen 9, maybe the release of Gen 9, maybe some big Poke project on the level of Pokemon Go. We're going to get
Hmm.
something. I mean, we don't know that, but because I mean, they've been very hush hush about, I will always commend Nintendo. They don't let many things leak,
No, they don't.
sadly.
They don't. No, never.
Yeah, if this was,
Rarely.
if this was another company, we would have had the whole 25th anniversary plan 3 months ago.
Yeah, Pokemon Snap. That's I think I reviewed that, and I think that's one of those reviews I think that I was kind of in retrospect I was off base on. I think I gave it kind of a mediocre score, not like a horrible score, but I think at that time it was just my mentality was more. It just didn't seem goal oriented enough for like a game. You know what I mean? Like it was sort of like, well, what
Yeah.
am I doing? It's more of a hangout kind of chill game where you're just sort of experiencing that and taking photos. And I mean, I know there are goals and there are things that you need to accomplish, but I had trouble back then. Like I remember first playing like Harvest Moon too, where it was just kind of like, this is just weird. Like I'm just kind of just hanging out and doing stuff, or even Animal Crossing when that first came out. It took me a while to like not understand that everything needs to be like a platformer, you know what I mean? Where you like are progressing, or like a Zelda where you're like always trying to unlock the next area or, puzzle. I don't know. It's kind of
Games could be
funny to think
chill.
about. What's that?
I was like, games could be chill.
That's what, yeah, they was chill. So what I take it you're not. Katy Perry's one of those, I don't know. Do people like listen to her? I feel like she's one of these people that's kind of famous and she gets picked to like do the Super Bowl a few years ago. And she was like, that one song was like Hillary Clinton's like theme song, but I feel like she gets picked for these high profile like TV type things. But then I don't know. Do people like? I'm trying to.
The answer is no. The answer you're
Okay,
looking for is no.
you're younger. You're younger than me, so I didn't know. Like,
Let me put it like this. She is now a judge on American Idol, which to me is, you are over
okay,
the hill in my mind.
yeah,
Like,
okay. So she's kind of like the Paula Abdul from the old school now, like
yes.
basically. Okay.
But
Um.
I feel like there were some executives in the Pokemon company all over the age of 35, possibly 40, and they were like, because okay, I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve to be one of the performers over this year long, but to kick it off, I feel like they didn't have someone young enough to be like, no.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's my sense of her. I mean, like I said, I'm not super plugged into the world of like pop music, but I can tell just from Twitter. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, Taylor Swift. People like Taylor Swift, right? Like,
Yeah.
they freak out when she does those release those surprise albums, and or like Beyonce. Like, people like she has fans, right? She has songs people want. You know what I mean, or think about, right? Like,
Oh
I just
man, if
don't
it
feel
was
like Katy Perry
Beyonce, man,
has.
I think the world blew up.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't feel like Katy Perry has a lot of songs that really, I don't know. To me, what I've heard, I remember her like with the Sharks and everything at the Super Bowl. Maybe that, but in fairness, like she does have kind of a cutesy kind of like colorful image, so maybe that had something to do with it too, right? She's kind
Yeah,
of,
that's true.
but
People are trying to say, well, how do you know she doesn't love Pokemon? And here's my response to that. You know, you you could probably everyone kind of loves Pokemon at some stage in their life. I feel like that's not universally
right,
true, but if Pokemon Go is an indication of anything, the world still collectively loves Pokemon.
yes, and I
So
mean,
I,
think about she's probably what like in her early to mid 30s, probably.
yeah,
So if it's the 25th anniversary, so when it kind of starts, that puts her at about you know 8, 9, 10 years old. So it's not that would be an age where you kind of get hooked on that type of a game, right?
yeah. And I'm really wondering. I'm like, is this gonna be a new song, or are we gonna get like a Katy Perry version of the Pokemon theme song? Because the press release, they are still very hush hush about it. They're just basically like, we're doing music. Here's the music person. It's gonna have music. Yeah, and I'm like, all right, that's very
Yeah.
cryptic. And
And
and also the message of we're having other superstars. So I'm just like, is this just like the slow trickle? Like, next week we're gonna get a picture of Beyonce, and then a picture of Taylor Swift, and then a picture of Kanye for all people. Which that
I
that
don't
would
know.
trip me out.
I don't think they're gonna probably be working with Kanye right now. I think that might be a little. He's got a lot on his mind, I would say. Uh, you know what I mean? I think he's got plenty to. I think part of it might be. It looks like their partnership is with. I'm trying to look Universal Music. So I'm assuming she's a. Oh wow, you're right though. Universal's huge. They got Taylor
Yeah.
Swift, Kanye, DaBaby, Lady Gaga. I mean, they got big. I can see Lady Gaga doing a Pokemon thing like
Oh,
that.
oh yeah. Honestly, I will
She
if
would
it was
probably
Lady Gaga.
make like a sexy like. She'd be like sexy Pikachu or some shit. Sorry, I shouldn't curse. Like, uh,
She will be
yeah,
Pokemon Company approved attractiveness Pikachu.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
But I mean, you must be excited for the 25th. I know.
oh
Full.
no, I am geeked to say the least. Only because it's so I always feel that Pokemon is in a weird space of it was cool when you were younger, right? When the 96, 97, 98, it couldn't be touched. It was the golden boy. And then the world collectively went to this weird phase of like, oh, Pokemon's a thing for nerds or for babies. We've all outgrown that. But then I would say there's two camps. There's people who pretended to outgrow it, and there's people who just accept that they never did. And
Right.
then at some point, like in the 2010s era, the beams crossed, and the world collectively was just like, yeah, we all love Pokemon. Like we just do. It hasn't went nowhere. We're all here for it. And then Pokemon Go came out, and it was just
Yeah.
like the world collectively loved it again. And
Hmm.
people swore that they never stopped loving it. It was almost like it was socially inept to like outwardly love Pokemon. And then
Yeah.
some weird thing happened where like people got tired of suppressing their love and was just like, nah.
Yeah. No, I mean, Go was. I mean, I messed around with it. It really probably wasn't my total bag, but it was cool. I mean, the idea was cool. But I remember just even driving around Minneapolis, like when it first came out. Those first maybe 3, 4 months, and I'd see you see groups of like adults, like these aren't kids, they're like on the street, and they're all kind of like looking at their phone in kind of weird ways and like turning around. It's like, oh my god, like these people are like. Then you see that they were all like groups of people playing Go, like trying to go walk around the city, which That was probably the coolest thing, is just that the game kind of made people interact with the real world in a certain way that was kind of a cool, thing, I thought. And, maybe that sort of brought up a new generation of like real young kids into the Pokemon thing too, that probably might not have experienced it, because not everyone has like a Switch or a Game Boy or whatever.
Oh yeah, most definitely. From a company standpoint, it was a huge success. It hooked old time people who had maybe left the franchise. The people who were already there were still there for it. It incorporated people who I don't know, like who never literally played the game but remembered the show and like fell in like it was something weird. Like there were people who never owned a Pokemon game who went and bought like Sword and Shield or just other things from the franchise because of Go. And
Yeah, definitely.
it's weird to think how one singular game, Pokemon, has driven, mass media culture for so long, 25 years, that they've
Yeah.
somehow made to stay relevant on a huge scale. Pokemon still holds the title for the most sold franchise in the world, like the Pokemon franchise from games to toys to everything. Like, it's number one by like billions of dollars. And I think
Yeah.
like number two or three is like Hello Kitty or something to that effect.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's been, it's a multi-generational. You probably have like almost three generations now of people that have experienced that in their, in their childhood,
And
which is
I'm
crazy.
just and so I'm wondering how wild they're gonna get. I don't think they're gonna get too wild, but assuming they took this to the extreme with like universal music and just so many things, I'm wondering if we would end up with another Pokemon Go style of like interest. Maybe not another game, but like they're gonna they already have a clothing line that supposedly they're gonna like pump more money into and stuff like this. And I
Yeah.
always think it's fun to say that we truly live in a Pokemon world when you think about it.
They said like there's going to be a lot of stuff. Well-known brands such as General Mills, Levi's, McDonald's, Jawares, Scholastic, Mattel, Funko, and the Wand Company, which I don't know. But Levi's, that'd be cool. Get your Pokemon jeans, like jean jacket and stuff like that, with like Pikachu on the back or something. There you go.
I just gotta ask, since you've been there since day one, like, but like more actually in the industry. Like, have you ever seen anything else do what Pokemon has done? From a video game standpoint, just come in and just dominate all cultures of just that are on our planet, from music, clothing, games.
Wow, I'd have to. I mean, it is unique in the fact that it. You can look at something like Mario, which I think we're going to touch on as well, but Pokemon is unique in the fact that it always did sort of inherently live in two different worlds. Like the card game has been very popular.
Mhm.
Like, and I still, my daughter's in elementary, and like kids still. I even know like this one kid, like they just collect them. They don't even play. They just like to get those, like the cards, right? Just sort of like, I guess, collecting baseball cards, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. I think it's unique in that it's kind of crossed over to different zones, and also just the fact that it stayed to be such like sort of almost like a staple of childhood. It's almost like Disney or something in a way, now for kids. I think that, my daughter's just turned 10 a while back, and, these kids like it, but you liked it. I remember when it came out. So it's just kind of funny how it's been around for so long, and doesn't seem to really go away. So maybe, who knows, maybe they'll do some kind of big, like, surprise Go sequel or something. That would be cool. Like, I mean, if they dropped that, that would be huge, right? If they made it maybe a little more, I don't know, maybe put a little more to it. That would be kind of fun.
Yeah. No. Me and my friends joke that like Pokemon Go, it was a game that never knew it was gonna be this big. And so it
Yeah.
has, there's I'm not saying it's bad, but it didn't, one, I don't think the developers think it would be go this long, and two, obviously be this big. So there's things that's just like, man, this could really be better. But I can't fault them for that. There's you can't prepare for, a quarter of the planet playing your game at one time. I don't
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that's something you can plan for.
No, 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 no. I mean, it had a good gimmick with the kind of education stuff, and that was cool. But yeah, there wasn't a ton of game around it, I guess. That
Yeah.
would be, I think it'd be funner. I think it'd be amazing to combine what was cool about Go with like something that was a little bit more robust and had more of a quest kind of style thing, maybe, or you know, if you felt like you were doing more than just showing up at a place and like,
Yeah,
cool,
you
grabbing
know,
that.
I've always felt like, I don't know how much Nintendo inputs on the game. I think it's just, mainly Niantic and the Pokemon Company. But I feel like if Nintendo is just like, all right, we're putting our stamp on it and like we're putting our people on this, it could probably be something incredible. But who knows? That's neither here nor there. Because
Yeah,
I kind of feel like there's like, yeah, we can make this better, but it still makes like 100 million a day. So,
yeah. It's not a bad problem to have. So
Not at all. But speaking of new games and development and stuff that's coming, so we touched on this earlier. Microsoft bought Bethesda, and now they are making exclusive for the Xbox a Indiana Jones game, which to my knowledge hasn't been made maybe since like the 8-bit era.
I feel like there was maybe a N64 Indiana Jones game. I feel like there was, so I should look it up. But there haven't been a lot. It's probably to me one of the weirdest things that. Yeah, okay, here we go. I'm not crazy.
Okay.
There's Indiana Jones and the Infernal Machine.
Oh, for the 64?
Yeah, it was 1999 for the N64. I thought I thought that I remembered that. I think Reiner liked it okay. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't hold up very well now by today's standards, but anyway, the larger point, yes, is that you can say what you will about Star Wars, and they've gone a lot of different directions, but there are legitimate classics, like Star Wars classics, right? There's going back to Knights of the Old Republic, or I mean, I know the Jedi Fallen was kind of more controversial, but there's like the Rogue Squadron games, the flight games are amazing, and even the old school arcade game for Star Wars, but they never seem to really devote a lot of resources to making Indiana Jones games, which I don't understand, because I really think of any movie franchise, it's almost like they're made to be video games, right? There's action, there's fighting, there's driving, there's platforming, there's solving like environmental stuff, and so to the point where really you could say there's two of the biggest franchises in history, Tomb Raider and Uncharted, that are basically like, what if Indiana Jones was like a woman, and what if Indiana Jones was like, shopped at like the Gap or something. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I'm super excited, and I know that people, Machine Games has done some cool work. What was your take on this? I'm pretty excited about it.
Oh no, I'm definitely excited about it. So, I was actually looking up. Oh, they had the Lego Indiana Jones series. I was like, okay,
That's right.
Yeah, but I was like,
but they also do like every single movie.
Yeah. I'm not downing the Lego series. They're fun and they sell well. But that's not a quintessential where we're talking about like an action, RPG driven Tomb Raider Uncharted S game. So
yeah,
Mike, I've never seen the Indiana Jones movies to completion. Like I've always caught them on TV, like halfway through towards the end. So I have like this collection of what TBS has shown throughout the years.
Right. Yeah, you should check them out. They're fun.
But I went to Disney World when I was 4 years old, and I remember nothing of the trip. It was one of those, like, I was freshly 4, so I was I was closer to 3 than 4.
Right.
And I remember like getting on the Dumbo ride and things like that. But outside of pictures, the only thing I've always vividly remembered was the live action Indiana Jones show. I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. The boulder, the fire, the whip, like it was just like, it blew my mind. And so that's been like a cherished memory of mine. So when I saw that, I was like, yes. And it's weird because, like I said, I never watched the movies. And like one day, and it's one of those things like I just need to sit down and do it.
Right. Yeah, you should, man. They're on Disney Plus, I think. But they're super fun movies, and I think now doing it on this type of next gen hardware or current gen hardware, they'll be able to do a lot of cool stuff. Like really, the whip obviously is an Indiana Jones signature, but they could do some really cool stuff like using the whip to like swing and I think they can probably do that at a better level than they would have been, years ago.
Yeah, and
There's there's like always like truck chases or like, it's just there's so much variety of different settings all over the world. The same way people basically, I mean, Uncharted really truly is just Indiana Jones, right?
oh
So
yeah,
I think they could do all those things with the classic character and the original. I mean, that'd be amazing, right? I mean,
yeah.
I'm sure if you would have given Naughty Dog the Indiana Jones license back in the day, they would have totally made Uncharted Indiana Jones, right? But they just had to come up with their own thing.
And it's the funny thing about it is that I think puts the Indiana Jones in a great position is they if someone you can't go like, oh, that's just Tomb Raider, oh, that's just Uncharted. It's like, no, that's just Indiana Jones. Like,
Yeah,
those things are copying this. This is the thing. Like
yeah,
we
exactly.
go because you always have to worry about that problem, especially in today's world. And another really cool thing is I can't think of the last Xbox exclusive where I was like, damn, I might have to get an Xbox. I don't have one yet. Because like, okay, like Halo Infinite, I'm not gonna like because of Xbox Game Pass, I'll probably get it on my PC and just play it on my PC.
Right.
And I'll have fun with it. And then honestly speaking, probably once I'm done with it, I'm done. But this is I can't it's weird. It's weird to say how like, we're talking about the console wars. I can't tell you a game that was like, I need an Xbox. And this might essentially be a console seller for me. This
Yeah,
might do
yeah. I
it.
mean, you need something like, I think that if it could do for them what I feel like with the mass market that the Spider-Man games did for Sony, the Insomniac stuff, I think those really moved people to buy that hardware for sure.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see it because a lot of people are worried that okay, they're gonna acquire Bethesda to simply just, you know, gate the franchises that are successful from them, just being like, we're not bringing nothing new to the table. We just paid money to be like, you can only play it on Xbox, exclusive streaming rights, something like that. When Netflix or Disney goes, hey, that show that everybody loves to watch, you can only watch it here, huh? And everyone,
Yep.
because everyone, there's people feel jaded half the time. It's like, well, okay. I mean, it's kind of a bum move, but it's like, okay, no, we've acquired to bring new, exciting things, not to just gatekeep things that you already love.
Yeah,
And
no,
they've done
exactly. Yeah.
that rather quickly. We're still within a year of the acquisition, and we already got this big drop. We don't got a release date or nothing, but we know it's coming. We know it's in the works, and I'm just, I remember
I
telling
believe
someone that I wasn't gonna get an Xbox probably because I got a Xbox One X and I got like 3 games for it, and that's all I ever had for it. And I was
right.
like, I'm not gonna do that again. I'm an adult. Like, I don't need to just buy all the systems.
Right.
But I would be very happy to be like, oh, we live in a world where you have to have a PlayStation, you have to have an Xbox because you're gonna miss out on just all these great games. That would
Yeah.
be an ideal world.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I believe I read that EA's Lucasfilm exclusivity agreement runs through 2023, because it was a 10-year agreement. And so that probably means that if that's 2 years out, that's why they're getting these things in place now, right? So I mean, these are huge games. Like they're gonna have a long development cycle. So I'm assuming we'll probably see these hopefully in early 2023, when that exclusivity agreement. But you can't start developing the game when it runs out. You want to have kind of something in the pipeline so you can really drop it right when that contract expires. I'm pretty sure that's what I read.
Yeah. And like, with the Star Wars thing, that's gonna be cool because you know, it's basically anyone can make a Star Wars game now. It's not like EA's gonna stop. Ubisoft's not working on a Star Wars game. And I think we're entering a world of gaming. Just we've gotten to the point where I think games, especially with technology and stuff, are just gonna start coming out. We've okay. I'll let me phrase this clear. We've left the era where people are now more concerned with creativity and great games than the money. Because I think back in the day, the money wasn't always guaranteed. So some people had to just make things to turn a profit. But now gaming as a whole has grown big enough to where the profit's there more or less. The money, people are gonna spend money on games. So we can take a step back and focus on like what I call the heyday of when people just want to make great games.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially for LucasArts, I think there is a certain amount of sales that are just sort of baked into the fact that it's a Star Wars franchise game. I mean, I think there's sort of a floor to how little even the worst Star Wars game would sell. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think you're still going to move a significant amount of units just because it is Star Wars and certain people just buy it on day one. But I mean, I think the good news is they're giving them to good studios, and Ubisoft. I think is the Division people. I'm assuming it's going to be some sort of like online Star Wars experience, which will be cool. And then Machine Games. What did they do? Was that Wolfenstein? They did New Order, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah, so I mean, they're giving them the good. I was just joking to somebody, but I think it would be so amazing. This would have to be a Sony exclusive, obviously, but if Insomniac did a Mandalorian game,
Oh.
like they would be so good at that, right? Because they already kind of know how to deal with like having like a character and a sidekick with Ratchet and Clank. You know what I mean? They've done that. Ratchet and Clank has certain powers, or like those weird weapons are kind of like levitating and stuff like Baby Yoda does. They've done, Resistance, which is a shooter. So you'd have that aspect of it. And then, you could have Mando like in space combat. You could have Mando doing his jetpack thing and, Mando doing the kind of like crazy like spear and combat, almost like martial arts fighting. I think that would be an amazing game.
Oh man, just to keep it in line with the naming convention of Ratchet and Clank, it should just be called Mando and Yoda.
Yeah, exactly. And people love it.
Oh man, I would buy that. I would legit buy. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest fan of the Mandalorian. I thought it was a slow western, a little too slow for my taste. But it picked up in season two. I know that may be controversial, but that's okay.
I mean, it's a fun. I think it's fun. I mean, I don't think it's the most brilliant writing in the world, but it's a fun. It kind of reminds me of a video game. It seems like a lot of side quests, honestly. Like it's like, like
That's
no,
a good way to
seriously,
put it.
it's like side quests, the TV show, basically. Like they're always looking for something they got to go find, and then they end up on some other planet, and somebody's like, "Hey, while you're here, we got to go fight this big crazy like worm thing that lives in a cave or whatever." You know what I mean? So it reminds me of side quests. Actually,
I
it's
like that
structured
side
kind of
quest
like
to
a video
show.
game.
But yeah, I think it's one of those things that like week by week, I was like, but like when I look back at it as a whole, I'm just like, I'd rather this have been released like I could just watch it in one sitting. Cause I feel like it's
Oh,
it's much better in one sitting.
yeah, this season I'm kind of going. I had sort of waited a while, so like I didn't start till they were all out, so I'm going through it a little bit, you know, more in a chunk with my daughter. But
Oh,
it's a fun
gotcha.
show. If you have kids, it's a fun show you can like watch with your kids, but it's also fun for adults. So
Yeah.
I've
But
had fun.
but
So
yeah,
I don't think it's brilliant, but it's fun. It's good fun.
you put the idea in my head now. I want Mando and Yoda by Insomniac Games.
I'm telling you, that'd be great. They'd be perfect for it. They did such a good job with Spider Man. They do a good job with everything. Insomniac's just they've done great work in everything they've done. So I think they'd
Oh
be
man,
amazing.
yeah. I'm not gonna lie. If that is announced like a year from now, I'm gonna be like, did y'all listen to the podcast? Did
It could
or
be. I think it could be a sort of a maybe a. Uh, it's probably not likely, just because I'm sure Insomniac has their own projects. I know. Don't they have a new Ratchet and Clank game coming out? So they're probably working on that.
yeah, it's hopefully coming out this year. We don't have an official release date, but it is
Yeah, those
looking
are.
nice.
That's such a good franchise. I love Ratchet
Yeah,
and Clank. That's just to me one of the most fun franchises ever. I love
yeah.
that
And
franchise so much.
and we all know it's going to be a complete tech show for the PS5. It's going to show us the limits of what the PS5 can do. So besides just like you said, loving the series, I really want to see what next gen has to offer. I literally want to be blown away of like we're here. We are here. We are at a new level of excellence.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think Sony's internal studios always try to set that bar, because they have. Well, I'm assuming they sort of have an advantage. They probably have access to the PS5 hardware and some of those, development tools before outside developers do. When they seem to have I think also when they have problems with the hardware, they can also call like Sony Japan and the people that actually made the hardware and get, seriously, I mean, you get, technical help from the people that made the actual, made the box, right?
Yeah,
So,
they know exactly how to tinker with it and make it do what you want it to do and all
yeah,
those crazy things. I know they're gonna do like crazy stuff with the controller. I can't even wait.
yeah,
But
it should be cool.
it's real interesting that when I think about, this whole acquisition and how this works. And because someone brought this to my attention back in when, if you're comparing gaming to TV, that back in the day, you had a whole bunch of stations and things like that. And then, you had like Sinclair and all these other groups buy like these TV stations and stuff. And like, now we have basically like everything's owned by like the three different companies. You have like, Time Warner, Sinclair, and then I forget what the other one is. Disney, I guess at this point,
Yeah,
since
Disney
they're
owns
in the
everything.
game. And and people thought at the time that they're gonna become like these mega monopolies, which they did in a way. But they were gonna basically drive TV and programming forward in ways no one ever thought, from like the black and white era into now and how things have progressed. And I'm like, I guess gaming has become that officially, I think you're forever gonna have Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, and they're gonna just at some point you're just gonna fall under one of those three umbrellas.
Hmm.
But basically what I'm seeing now, especially with Sony and stuff, they're really, I mean, they're the driving force for gaming. It's kind of like, hey, studios, you've all been on the wild, y'all been on the own, but now we're just gonna like pump money into you, and we're gonna be able to create content that neither of us can do alone.
Yeah, I mean, Sony's I think had a great track record of either working with studios they really like that are independent, or buying some of the studios that they really like that they have a good track record with. And I think, yeah, I just think they have always maybe valued development differently than Microsoft. And I think they're willing to, there's certain Media Molecule. There's a great example. They did Little Big Planet, and they're doing a lot of cool stuff, but I'm not entirely sure they have made Sony a ton of money, to be honest. Like, I think those games sell okay, but I think they also, like, they spend a lot in development, and they're kind of more of an art house kind of studio in a way. Like, they kind of do quirky, different, experimental kind of things. So, but I think Sony believes in what they do, and so then they just sort of feel like, hey, we make a little bit of money on this, and it's profitable, and like, but we appreciate them bringing something that's totally different to the table.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I don't think Dreams was a commercial success, but in terms of like a game that where you can basically make anything, any game, anything you can quote unquote dream of. I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
that's incredible. It's one of those things for me. Like, I know myself, like I don't have the time, effort, or
Right.
energy to like put into it to make something amazing, but it exists. People have
Yeah.
created like full on games in that game.
Yeah, there's a
And,
super cult following, to the Dreams, or I think the same thing with like Mario from Nintendo. Like, I tried to make a Mario level, and it was just like basically the worst level of like the first NES game quality level, right? I just couldn't. I don't have that skill. But then you see people making these just insane levels that are cool, and people all over the world are playing these like DIY Mario Maker levels. I think that's a cool thing.
yeah, but I think honestly, this may be sadly all the time I have with you today, Helgeson.
Oh, okay. But it was really fun, man. And again, Odell, I'm happy for you. I'm happy you continue to keep rising and keep grinding. And I know you're working hard and doing a lot of different kinds of content, getting a lot of different kinds of experience. And so it's been cool. Just having met you at the very, very beginning of your career, when you were an intern, and it's a few years ago by now. And that, I don't know, man, it's cool. I always like seeing what you're doing on Twitter, and so kudos to you, man. Congrats.
Oh man, I greatly appreciate that. I'm out here grinding. I'm still here. I always tell people, they're like, "Where are you?" I'm still here. I plan on making it one day. Don't know when that day is coming, but I'm gonna be here until I do. But Helgson, I appreciate you keeping up and following me. But for people who want to keep up and follow with you, where can they do
Yeah.
that? Where can they see
Yeah.
what you're doing?
I'm on Twitter at Matt Helgeson, Helgeson, at Matt Helgeson on Twitter. And like I said, we've been having a lot of fun with Crossfade, the podcast, Crossfade Dueling Album Reviews. So if you're looking for something a little different, we definitely dip our toes into some game discussion, but it's mostly focused on music. We are going to try to, I think, in the new year, we're trying to reach out to some guys that and guys and girls that make video game music, or video game composers, people like that. I think we're going to try to bring them in to just talk about music as well. But it's been fun, yeah. So check out Crossfade and all the MinnMax stuff we got going on.
That's what's up. And if you like Full Circle Podcast, you can always follow the podcast itself at FC Podcast 23 on Twitter and Instagram. And if you really like it, we do have a Patreon. Shout out to the Patreons, Bake Rice, Gabriel Garcia, and Ryan Frazier. But I always tell people, you don't have to give no money, because you know what? Like, sharing, and subscribing is free 99. Just saying,
There you
people.
go.
If you've been here for 10, 15, 30 minutes, that's all I'm asking you to do. But
Yeah.
everyone, I want to thank our special guest, Matt Helgeson. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me, Odell.
Always, always. As always, people, have a great week and be blessed.
Take care. Bye, everybody.